Imagine you are, just walking through a completely standard Tuesday.
Right, just a normal day.
Yeah, exactly. You decide which political commentary to listen to on your commute, or you choose a specific brand of coffee at the store.
Oh, yeah?
You even successfully negotiate with your partner about, whose family you are visiting for the holidays.
The big negotiations.
Right. And in all of these micro moments, you feel like the autonomous author of your life. You are holding the steering wheel.
Absolutely.
But what if the pavement underneath your tires is actually tilted, imperceptibly guiding you toward a very specific destination?
It's a slightly terrifying thought, really.
It is, because we spend our days completely surrounded by these invisible architectures of influence. From the massive algorithmic scale of political campaigns to the, incredibly intimate whispered negotiations in our own living rooms.
It is unsettling when you pause to really map it out, because we operate on this baseline assumption of total cognitive independence.
Right. We think we're fully in charge.
Exactly. But the reality of human interaction is that persuasion is essentially an atmospheric pressure. It is just constant.
Wow, atmospheric pressure. I like that.
Yeah, and more importantly, it is a bidirectional force. We are perpetually shaping the behaviors of those around us while, our own behaviors are being shaped by forces we rarely stop to consciously identify.
Right, and that brings us to the core of our deep dive today. We are looking at a really fascinating set of research, an excerpt titled The Unseen Forces of Persuasion.
It's a great piece of source material.
It really is. And the mission here, for you listening, is to basically reverse engineer the mechanics of influence. We want to decode the exact art and science of how human beings convince one another to change their minds.
Yeah, it's like we're taking apart the machine to see how it works.
Exactly. Think of this as opening up the hood to look at the engine of human interaction. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we get into the tactical levers of influence, we need to address the boundary between persuasion and manipulation. Because mechanically, they share the exact same tool set.
They do. They absolutely do.
Yeah.
And if we don't establish that boundary right away, the mechanics we are about to discuss just look like the sociopath's playbook.
Right, which is not what we want to teach here.
No, definitely not. The distinction ultimately hinges on a single invisible variable, and that is intent.
Intent. Okay, break that down for us.
So persuasion operates on transparency. It's about a mutually beneficial outcome, the classic win-win scenario.
Okay.
You're presenting a case, whether through logic or emotion, with the explicit goal of aligning someone's actions with your viewpoint in a way that actually serves both parties.
Right. It's above board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Manipulation, on the other hand, operates entirely in the shadows. It relies on coercion, deception, and the targeted exploitation of cognitive vulnerabilities.
Wow.
And it does all of this for a strictly unilateral gain. It's selfish. There's always a hidden agenda or some kind of ulterior motive.
Let me put an analogy to this. I feel like ethical persuasion is like handing someone a map to a destination you both genuinely want to reach.
I like that, yeah.
You are pointing out the terrain, explaining why this route makes sense, and inviting them to walk it with you.
Right.
But manipulation is handing them a map where you've intentionally mislabeled a swamp as a shortcut. Because, you need them to test the depth of the mud for you.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
But let me challenge this clear division for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
We are sitting here labeling manipulation as this malicious, deceptive thing. But in the actual moment it is happening, doesn't manipulation often feel far more convincing and honestly more comfortable to the recipient than ethical persuasion does?
It absolutely can. And that is precisely what makes it such a dangerous mechanism.
Right, because it doesn't feel bad in the moment.
No, it often feels great. Ethical persuasion requires cognitive load. It asks the listener to evaluate an argument, weigh the benefits, and make a conscious choice.
Which is hard work.
It is. That takes mental energy. Manipulation bypasses the prefrontal cortex, which is the analytical part of the brain, and it targets our evolutionary vulnerabilities instead.
Wait, really? It just skips the logic center entirely?
Entirely. It targets insecurity, fear, or a desperate desire for validation. When a manipulator hits those nerves, it doesn't feel like you're being tricked.
What does it feel like then?
It feels like an immediate, urgent biological reflex. It feels convincing because it offers a seemingly instant solution to an emotional pain point that the manipulator just artificially activated.
Wow. So it is essentially hacking the brain's security system by triggering a fire alarm.
Yes, exactly.
The brain stops checking ID badges at the door because it thinks the building is burning down.
That's a great way to put it.
That explains the how of the boundary. But to really understand the foundational architecture of this, we have to look back to the original framework, don't we?
We do. We have to go way back.
Because humanity has been studying these mechanics for over 2 millennia. This goes all the way back to Aristotle's 3 pillars of rhetoric, right? Logos, pathos, and ethos.
The classics.
Right. And assuming most of us listening are familiar with the basic definition, logic, emotion, and credibility, let's look at how these actually interact under the surface.
Yeah, because the interaction is where the real mechanics live. Let's start by looking at logos, the appeal to logic.
Okay.
We tend to flatter ourselves by believing we are primarily driven by logos. We want the data, the statistics, the watertight case.
Right. We all like to think we're purely rational beings.
Exactly. But neurologically, a purely logical argument rarely initiates action. Logos just provides the structural integrity of an argument.
It's just the framework.
Yeah. If the logic has holes, the entire proposition collapses under scrutiny.
Yeah.
But a watertight case alone is just a static structure. It doesn't move people.
Right, which brings in pathos, the emotional appeal.
Precisely.
We often see this starkly in charity advertising. You don't see adverts opening with a spreadsheet showing the macroeconomic impact of regional famine.
No, never.
You see a close-up of a single identifiable individual experiencing hardship. And this isn't just an artistic choice, is it? It is leveraging a recognized psychological phenomenon.
It is. It relies on something called the identifiable victim effect.
The identifiable victim effect, okay.
Yeah. Human beings are not neurologically equipped to process suffering on a massive statistical scale.
Yeah.
A statistic of 1 million people in distress does not trigger the release of oxytocin.
And oxytocin is the neurochemical responsible for empathy, right?
Exactly. But a story about one specific person that bypasses our analytical filters and directly activates our limbic system. By sidelining the statistics and focusing on emotional resonance, a skilled persuader is basically chemically altering the state of the listener. Pathos provides the fuel for action, whereas logos only provides the justification.
Fuel versus justification, that makes so much sense. But neither the structure of logos nor the fuel of pathos matters if the engine itself is broken.
Right.
And that is where ethos comes in. Credibility.
The most important one, in many ways.
Because you can have the most bulletproof statistical model and the most chemically potent emotional story, but if the audience thinks you are a fraud, it all instantly disintegrates.
It really does.
Yeah.
Ethos is the heuristic filter.
What do you mean by heuristic filter?
Well, our brains are bombarded with thousands of persuasive attempts every single day.
Right.
We cannot possibly allocate the cognitive energy to fully evaluate the logos and pathos of every single claim.
We'd be exhausted.
We'd never get anything done. So we use ethos as a shortcut. We ask, does this person have a track record? Do they have skin in the game?
Ah, I see.
If the answer is no, the brain essentially turns down the volume on the rest of the message to conserve energy. Ethos is what grants you permission to even attempt to use logos and pathos.
So what does this all mean in practice?
It means it's all about context.
Right. We need to recognize that different environments demand completely different ratios of these pillars. Like if you are sitting in a boardroom pitching a merger, leading with heavy pathos is going to completely shatter your ethos.
Oh, absolutely. They'd laugh you out of the room.
They want the logos. They want the numbers. But if you are trying to rally a community after a natural disaster, leading with an actuarial table of property damage will alienate everyone in the room.
Exactly. The mastery is in dynamically adjusting the mix based on the specific context you're in.
And that dynamic adjustment is what brings us from ancient philosophy into modern psychology. Because Aristotle identified the broad pillars, but researchers like Dr. Robert Cialdini have actually mapped the specific automatic triggers that operate within those pillars.
Yes, we are moving from the macro architecture to the micromechanics now.
We are getting into the biological user's manual for the brain. And the first mechanism here is reciprocity.
A huge one.
On a surface level, we all know the feeling of, I owe you one. The classic example from the source text is the free sample at a supermarket.
Right. The cheese on the toothpick.
Exactly. But this isn't just about feeling polite, is it? This is a deep-seated evolutionary mechanism.
It is entirely evolutionary. For early human tribes to survive, we had to develop a system of reciprocal altruism.
Reciprocal altruism.
Yes. If I share my food with you today when I have a surplus, I need a biological guarantee that you will share with me tomorrow when I am starving.
Or else I just don't survive.
Exactly. The psychological discomfort we feel when someone does us a favor and we haven't repaid it, that subtle, nagging tension.
Yeah.
That is literally an evolutionary adaptation to ensure the social ledger remains balanced.
So when a charity or a company sends you a free calendar in the mail with a request for a donation, they aren't just being generous.
Not at all.
They are weaponizing thousands of years of evolutionary biology to create cognitive dissonance.
Yes, they are.
Your brain literally feels unbalanced until you send the check. It's fascinating because it forces us into behaviors that defy standard economic logic.
It forces compliance.
Yeah.
And it operates powerfully alongside another evolutionary shortcut, which is social proof.
Social proof. We hear that term a lot.
We do, and we often dismiss social proof as mere herd mentality or conformity, which, sounds weak.
Yeah, nobody wants to be a sheep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But biologically, it is an incredibly efficient survival mechanism.
Let's reframe that. Social proof isn't just following the crowd, it is essentially the brain's safe mode.
Safe mode, yes.
When we are in a high ambiguity situation, processing all the variables to make an optimal decision requires a massive expenditure of ATP, cellular energy.
It's exhausting for the brain.
Right. So to conserve that energy, our brain looks around and assumes that if a large group of people are doing something, they must have already processed the variables and found the safest route.
Precisely. If you are in a foreign city, right, and you see two restaurants, one is totally empty and one has a massive line out the door, you automatically assume the busy one is better.
Even without seeing the menu.
Exactly. You offload the computational work of evaluating the menus onto the crowd. Marketers simulate this constantly.
Oh, all the time. The bestseller badge on a book.
The artificial queue outside a nightclub.
Or those little pop-up notifications that say 15 people have this in their cart right now.
Yes. They are artificially creating the signal that the herd has already deemed this item safe and desirable.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the true manipulation happens when these triggers are stacked on top of each other.
Oh, trigger stacking is incredibly potent.
We see social proof constantly mixed with scarcity. And scarcity is the psychological panic that sets in when a resource is perceived to be limited.
Scarcity basically hijacks the amygdala.
The fear center.
Right. From an evolutionary standpoint, if a vital resource was scarce, missing out on it meant death. It was that serious. Today, the resource might just be, a discounted pair of shoes. But the neurological alarm bell ringing in your head is exactly the same.
The brain doesn't know the difference between shoes and food.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
When you perceive scarcity, your physiological arousal increases, your focus narrows entirely onto the scarce item, and your higher order critical thinking just completely shuts down.
So imagine the cocktail here. You are online looking at a hotel room. You get hit with social proof. 30 people are looking at this property right now.
Right.
Then you get hit with scarcity. Only one room left at this price.
The panic sets in.
And maybe they throw in a little reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
Unlock your free member discount now.
Yeah.
The platform is essentially flooding your nervous system with evolutionary panic signals. It is an artificially induced crisis that pushes you to abandon logos completely and just click book.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this transition from the grand psychological triggers to the actual moment of action relies entirely on the delivery mechanism.
The delivery mechanism.
Yes. We can understand reciprocity and scarcity conceptually, but they have to be communicated somehow. And this brings us to the micro level of influence, which is the architecture of language.
It's the specific words we use.
Exactly. The way a concept is framed literally dictates how the brain processes it.
This is the concept of framing, and specifically loss aversion.
Yes.
The underlying reality of a situation can remain entirely static, but swapping a single verb can drastically alter the listener's behavior. The classic example in the text involves a utility company trying to get consumers to switch to a more efficient energy plan.
Let's look at the mechanics of that because it's brilliant. If you approach a homeowner and say, you will save $5 a day by switching to this plan, you are framing it as a game.
Okay, saving money sounds good.
But if you say, you are losing $5 a day by not switching, the mathematical reality is identical.
Right. $5 is $5.
The net difference to their bank account is exactly $5 either way. Yet the behavioral outcomes are radically different. The losing frame is significantly more persuasive.
But why? Why does the brain treat those two identical mathematical outcomes so differently?
It comes down to asymmetrical evolutionary risks.
Asymmetrical risks.
Yeah. Gaining an unexpected resource, like, say, finding extra berries while foraging, that gives you a temporary advantage. It's a nice little dopamine hit.
Great, extra berries.
But losing a critical resource could literally be fatal. Therefore, our neurological wiring treats a potential loss as a much higher priority threat than an equivalent potential gain.
Oh, wow.
The psychological pain of losing $50 is intensely more powerful than the joy of finding $50. So when you frame a decision as a loss, you activate the brain's threat avoidance pathways.
You are no longer offering them a bonus. You are offering them a way to stop an active hemorrhage.
Exactly. You are changing the emotional weight of the decision without changing a single fact. It is basically linguistic alchemy.
Linguistic alchemy. And on the flip side of that high-pressure framing, we see the use of what the source calls softening language.
Right.
This isn't about triggering alarm bells. This is about bypassing the ego's defense mechanisms entirely.
Softening language is basically a tactical de-escalation of a conversation. When human beings are presented with a direct contradiction, like someone flat out saying, your idea won't work, the amygdala processes it as a social threat.
So we get defensive.
Immediately. The listener's defensive barriers go up, and they entrench themselves in their original position, regardless of how good the opposing logic is.
Right. They dig their heels in.
Exactly. Softening language attempts to introduce a new idea without triggering that threat response.
So instead of saying, you're wrong, we need to do X, you say, correct me if I'm wrong, but have we considered how X might impact this?
Yes.
You are essentially padding the new idea so it doesn't bruise their ego on the way in. It's the linguistic version of leading the horse to water.
It makes them feel like it was their idea, or at least that they're part of the discovery process.
But this raises a major red flag for me.
Oh.
Yeah. If I am intentionally using softening language to plant an idea in someone's head, and specifically designing my words so they walk away thinking they came up with the idea themselves, aren't we crossing right back over that line into manipulation?
That is the razor's edge. It really is.
Right.
And it demands we look very closely at the outcome and the intent, which we talked about earlier.
Right.
If your goal is to guide a colleague toward a genuinely superior, mutually beneficial solution that they were just too blinded by their own ego to see initially, you are using softening language to basically remove the friction of their pride.
So that would be ethical persuasion.
Yes, because the map still leads to a destination you both benefit from.
Yeah.
However, if you were using softening phrases to quietly maneuver a client into a disadvantageous contract while making them feel empowered and in control, you are using the exact same linguistic tools for pure manipulation. The softening language merely disguises the trapdoor.
So the tool itself is completely neutral.
Completely neutral.
The morality is entirely in the application.
Precisely.
Which brings us to the most crucial part of this entire deep dive. We have laid out this vast armory of psychological and linguistic weapons. You know, reciprocity, social proof, loss aversion, emotional appeals, bypassing logic entirely.
It's a lot.
It is. As a listener navigating this minefield every single day, how do you defend yourself? What is the countermeasure to all of this?
The absolute best countermeasure is metacognition.
Metacognition, meaning thinking about thinking.
Exactly. It is thinking about your own thinking in real time. The research points out that the ultimate defense against manipulation, especially online with dark patterns and high-pressure sales, is active, conscious awareness in the moment.
It sounds almost too simple, honestly. Just be aware. But mechanically, how does awareness actually neutralize a deeply biological trigger like scarcity or social proof?
What's fascinating here is that simply labeling an emotion or a tactic fundamentally changes how the brain processes it.
Really? Just naming it.
Just naming it. When you feel that sudden, urgent panic to buy something because there's only one left, your limbic system is driving the car. You are in emotional mode.
Right.
But the moment you pause and consciously label it, you say to yourself, oh, they are using the scarcity principle paired with loss aversion.
Right.
You force your prefrontal cortex to engage.
The logical part of the brain.
Yes. The simple act of identifying the technique strips it of its subconscious power. You immediately move from a reactive emotional state into an analytical critical state.
You are basically turning the lights on in the haunted house. Suddenly, the terrifying ghost is just a guy in a sheet.
That's exactly what it is.
This is why critical listening requires a mental checklist. When you feel that sudden shift in your own conviction, you have to hit pause.
You have to.
Ask yourself, why am I suddenly anxious about missing out on this? Are they appealing to my logic with verifiable data, or are they exclusively playing on my empathy through a heartbreaking story?
Right.
Is this person leveraging their genuine credibility, or are they exploiting my insecurities?
Exactly. You interrogate the interaction.
Yeah.
You look for the underlying intent. If someone is genuinely persuading you, their argument will survive that analytical pause.
But watertight logic will remain watertight.
Yes, but if they are manipulating you, the illusion shatters the moment you stop letting urgency dictate your actions.
Being a highly skilled persuader is undeniably a powerful asset. You can rally teams, negotiate better outcomes, and drive positive change. But being a discerning, critical listener, that is a superpower.
It really is.
It is the armor that allows you to navigate a world engineered to extract your compliance.
It is the difference between being the architect of your decisions and just being a cog in someone else's machine.
We have dug so deep today. We started with the foundational difference between ethical maps and deceptive trapdoors. We looked at how Aristotle's ethos acts as the gatekeeper for our logic and our emotion. We explored the evolutionary biology behind Cialdini's triggers, really seeing how our deep-seated needs for social cohesion and resource security are routinely hijacked. And we examined the micromechanics of language, realizing how a simple frame of loss over gain can entirely alter our reality.
It gives you a completely different lens through which to view, well, every conversation, every headline, and every negotiation you'll ever have.
It really does. But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought to turn over in your mind.
Okay.
We've established that our best defense against this influence is conscious awareness. We can pause, we can identify the social proof or the loss aversion, and we can engage our analytical brain.
Right.
But consider where we are heading. We are moving into an era where artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are observing our behavior continuously.
Well,
They don't just use broad psychological triggers anymore. They learn our specific, individualized vulnerabilities.
and the microsecond.
Exactly. If an algorithm knows exactly what time of day your cognitive defenses are lowest and exactly what specific microphrasing triggers your unique sense of scarcity, will our conscious awareness be fast enough or strong enough to resist a machine that knows the user's manual of our brain better than we do?
That is a chilling thought.
Think about that the next time you feel the road tilting beneath you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay insanely curious, stay well-informed, and we will see you next time.
Have you ever walked away from a conversation? Maybe it was like a really high-pressure sales pitch.
Oh, definitely.
Or, even just a casual chat with your neighbor over the fence.
Right, something super mundane.
Yeah, exactly. You walk away and suddenly realize you just agreed to do this massive favor that you absolutely 100% did not want to do.
Yes. Or you find yourself staring at a receipt.
Oh my gosh, yes. The receipt.
Right. You're looking at a receipt for this ridiculously expensive extended warranty on, I don't know, a blender you barely even use.
A $30 blender.
Exactly. And you're standing out there in the parking lot just thinking, why on earth did I say yes to that?
Like, you didn't plan on it.
No.
You definitely didn't budget for it.
Not at all.
But in the moment, when you were looking right at the salesperson saying yes, it felt completely natural.
Almost inevitable, really.
Yeah, inevitable. Why is that?
Well, that feeling of inevitability, that's really the hallmark of invisible influence. Because, we all walk around with this deeply ingrained assumption. We think we are completely rational being.
Right. Like we're the ones in charge.
Exactly. We think we're sitting firmly in the driver's seat of our own minds, logically weighing the pros and cons of every single choice we make.
And then we end up with a $100 warranty on a $30 blender.
Yeah, and that illusion of total rational control just completely shatters.
It really does. Well, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we are mapping out the invisible architecture of influence that, tricked your brain into buying that warranty.
Or signing that weird petition.
Right. Or agreeing to help your neighbor move a couch on your one day off.
The worst.
Because persuasion, it isn't just something that happens to you on a used car lot.
No, not at all.
It's this constant ambient force. I mean, it is happening in your inbox right now.
Oh, constantly.
On your social media feeds, in your living room, and definitely at your workplace.
And our goal today is to really examine this from both sides of the board.
The defense and the offense.
Exactly. First, we're building a defense system for you. We want to help you identify these psychological tripwires so you can protect your own autonomy.
Because you can't fight what you can't see.
Exactly. But the second half of that equation, which is just as important, is learning the offense.
The ethical offense.
Yes, the ethical offense. How do you use the mechanics of true empathetic persuasion to genuinely connect with people?
Right, to overcome their hidden hesitations and actually solve problems together collaboratively.
That's the ultimate goal.
So, just to set the baseline here, we all know the ancient pillars of persuasion.
Sure, the classics.
Yeah, we're deeply familiar with Aristotle's logos for logic, pathos for emotion, and ethos for credibility.
The foundational stuff.
Right. And we probably already know some of the classic conscious triggers from Robert Cialdini's work.
Things like reciprocity.
Yeah, where you feel obligated to return a favor because someone gave you a free sample.
Or the sudden panic of scarcity.
Oh man, scarcity gets me every time.
Right. When a website screams at you that there are only 2 seats left on your flight.
And you just panic by it.
Exactly. But today, we are skipping all that conscious stuff.
Going straight into the subconscious basement.
What's fascinating here is that the most powerful form of influence doesn't actually involve a single spoken argument.
Wait, really? Not a single word?
Not one. It involves these external triggers that cause our brains to automatically drop their defensive shields before the persuader even opens their mouth.
Oh, wow.
And the most potent of these external triggers is the illusion of authority.
The illusion of authority. Okay, let's unpack this. We're talking about, like, the doctor in the white coat in a TV commercial, right?
That is the classic example, yeah.
So picture this. You're sitting on your couch. You're watching an ad for a new painkiller.
Right.
An actor walks on screen. And your conscious brain, it knows perfectly well this is an actor.
Right, they probably just left a casting call in Hollywood.
Exactly. But they're holding a clipboard. They're wearing this pristine, bright, white lab coat.
A stethoscope draped around the neck.
Yes. And even though your logical brain, your logos, knows they didn't go to medical school, that white coat still carries this massive amount of psychological weight.
It does. The white coat is what psychologists refer to as a trappings of authority.
Trappings of authority.
Yeah. And the vulnerability for us as targets, it isn't that we respect doctors. We should respect doctors.
Right, that's just common sense.
But the vulnerability is that we respect the symbols of doctors just as much.
Oh, I see.
Our brains react to the symbol, the costume, exactly as they would to the genuine article.
We just defer to the outfit.
Exactly.
You know, I always think of our critical thinking like a giant, super intimidating bouncer.
I love this analogy.
Right. He's standing outside the exclusive nightclub of our brain. And his whole job is just to scrutinize every single piece of information trying to get inside.
He's the gatekeeper.
Exactly. He's standing there crossing his arms asking, "Who are you? What do you want? Do you have some ID?" So if a random guy in a stained t-shirt walks up and tells you to take a mysterious pill, the bouncer stops him cold.
Obviously.
But the trappings of authority, like that white coat or an expensive tailored suit, or even just having the letters DR in front of a name, that is basically a VIP all-access backstage pass.
It really is.
The bouncer sees that VIP pass, and he just unclips the velvet rope.
No questions asked.
No pat down, no ID check. The persuader gets to walk right past your brain security system without a single hurdle.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism at play here.
The mechanism.
Yeah, because we have to ask, why does the bouncer let them through so easily?
Right. Why is he slacking on the job?
Because fundamentally that bouncer is exhausted.
Exhausted.
Deeply exhausted. We live in a profoundly complex, overwhelming world.
That's an understatement.
Right, and if you had to logically scrutinize, verify, and peer review every single claim made to you every single day...
Oh man, you'd never get out of bed.
You would literally paralyze yourself. You wouldn't be able to buy a carton of milk at the grocery store without running a full chemical analysis to make sure it wasn't poisoned.
Okay, so the VIP pass, the deferring to authority, it's actually an energy-saving feature.
Precisely that. The human brain is what we call a cognitive miser.
A cognitive miser, meaning it wants to hoard energy.
It is desperate to save caloric energy. So over millions of years, it evolved to use these mental shortcuts.
Heuristics.
Exactly, heuristics. We rely on symbols of legitimacy to do all the heavy cognitive lifting for us.
So the brain just sees the white coat and says, okay, cool, they must have gone to medical school.
They must understand human biology. I can just offload the burden of fact-checking onto them.
Wow. So the professional persuader, they're relying entirely on the fact that your brain just wants to go to sleep.
Yes. They wear the suit or they hang the fancy diploma on the wall specifically so your brain feels safe powering down.
Okay, so external triggers like a doctor's coat, they bypass our logic through authority. But authority is really about deference, right? It's about respect, maybe even a little bit of intimidation.
Sure.
But what about affection? Because the source text brings up this concept of liking as an equally powerful force.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea that we are far more easily persuaded by people we know and like.
It is widely considered one of the most reliable compliance triggers in all of human psychology.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You're saying we are persuaded just because we like someone?
Yes.
I mean, that sounds like a kindergarten playground rule to me.
Oh, dude.
Like, I'll trade you my juice box because you're my best friend. Are you seriously calling that a high-level psychological weapon?
I am.
It just feels way too simple to be dangerous, you know?
I can totally understand why you'd frame it that way. It sounds organic, right?
Yeah, it sounds nice.
It sounds like a natural friendship developing over years of shared experiences.
Exactly.
But we are not talking about organic friendship here.
We aren't.
No. When this is wielded by a professional persuader, like a skilled negotiator, a political operative, or a master salesperson liking, is a highly engineered synthetic cocktail.
A synthetic cocktail.
It's a cocktail of psychological factors specifically designed to manufacture deep rapport artificially and very, very rapidly.
So it's weaponized affection.
Weaponized affection is a great way to put it.
Okay, so they are reverse engineering the feeling of a long-term friendship in a matter of, what, minutes?
Minutes, sometimes seconds,
How do they actually do that?
by mixing 4 very specific ingredients.
Okay, what's ingredient number 1?
The first is physical attractiveness.
Ah, the halo of being good looking.
Exactly. Decades of psychological studies consistently demonstrate that we subconsciously assign better personality traits to attractive people.
Just automatically.
Automatically. We assume they are kinder, we think they're smarter, and crucially, we believe they are more honest.
Purely based on, what, facial symmetry and a good haircut.
Pretty much. Facial symmetry, grooming, aesthetic presentation.
That is so depressing.
It's a cognitive flaw. But it leads right into the second ingredient, which is similarity.
Similarity, which makes total sense. Like, if I'm traveling and I meet someone from my hometown, I instantly feel a bond with them.
Of course you do, because similarity represents a massive biological comfort zone for us.
How far back does that go?
Evolutionarily speaking, all the way. Humans lived in small, tight-knit tribes.
Right.
So someone who was like me meant they were safe, familiar, predictable.
And someone who was different from me.
That meant a potential threat from a competing tribe.
Oh, wow. So it's a survival instinct.
Exactly. We are hardwired to drop our defenses around people who share our background.
Or our hobbies, right?
Hobbies, political views, or honestly, even just our style of dress.
So when a car salesperson notices, I don't know, a set of golf clubs in the trunk of your trade-in,
Yes, perfect example.
and they suddenly launch into this huge story about how much they just love the local back nine,
They aren't just making friendly small talk.
they're hacking the system.
They are actively hijacking your ancient biological safety systems to make you feel like they are part of your tribe.
That is wild. Okay, so we have attractiveness and similarity. What's the third ingredient in this artificial friendship cocktail?
The third one is compliments.
Flattery.
Yes. And I always find this one fascinating because human beings have an unbelievable, almost embarrassing vulnerability to flattery.
It's true. We love to hear nice things about ourselves.
We really do. You can know for an absolute empirical fact that a salesperson works on commission.
Right. You know they just want your money.
You know they have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And yet when they look at you and tell you that you have absolutely incredible taste in cars,
Your brain still lights up.
it lights up like a Christmas tree. It still actively increases your affinity for that person.
Even though you know it's a tactic.
Because we're just starved for validation. Compliments trigger a real dopamine release in the brain, regardless of whether the source is pure or not.
That is kind of terrifying. But you said there were 4 ingredients.
Yes. The fourth ingredient is the one that truly seals the trap.
Okay, what is it?
It's the ingredient that transforms the interaction from an evaluation into a partnership.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
It's cooperation.
Cooperation, like working together.
Yeah.
Like the classic good cop, bad cop routine.
Exactly like that. Or think of the car salesman who leans over the desk, looks around nervously, and whispers, "Listen, let me go to the back room and fight my greedy manager to get you this deal."
Oh my gosh, I have literally had that exact thing said to me.
We all have.
And it works.
Yeah.
Because they are actively engineering a scenario where the two of you are suddenly shoulder to shoulder in the trenches.
Fighting against a common enemy.
The greedy manager.
Right. And what happens in that moment is that the psychological boundary between you and me completely dissolves.
It becomes us.
Yes, it becomes us. You are no longer two individuals with competing financial interests.
Which you actually are.
Which you are. But in your mind, you are now a team working toward a shared goal.
Beating the manager.
Exactly. So when you synthesize these four components, attractiveness, similarity, complements, and manufactured cooperation,
you establish an incredibly deep common ground.
An artificial common ground, but yes, a very deep one.
And once again, my cognitive bouncer completely fails.
Is asleep on the job.
Because the bouncer doesn't pat down a teammate. You don't scrutinize the motives of someone who was supposedly fighting on your side.
The whole dynamic transforms. You are no longer analyzing a high-stakes pitch from a stranger. You are just considering a friendly suggestion from an ally.
It is devastatingly effective.
It really is.
Okay, so if we are wired to drop our defenses for a white coat, or if we fall for this engineered cocktail of complements and similarity, those are still external pressures.
Right, those are traps set by other people.
But what happens when the call is coming from inside the house?
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right, what happens when our own brain is the thing tricking us?
This takes us out of the realm of external triggers and deep into the internal psychology of identity.
Okay, let's go there.
We are moving into the principle of commitment and consistency.
Commitment and consistency.
And this is arguably where persuasion becomes the most dangerous of all.
Because it uses our own ego against us.
Exactly. It weaponizes your own sense of self.
I always look at this concept like building a brick wall around yourself.
A brick wall, sure.
Yeah, you build it one tiny brick at a time until you suddenly realize you can't walk out of the room.
You've walled yourself in.
Exactly. And it's often executed through something called the foot in the door technique.
Let's trace how that bricklaying process actually functions in the real world.
Okay, so it starts with a brick that is so small, so insignificant, you barely even notice you're holding it.
Right.
The persuader asks for a tiny, incredibly easy request. Something so minor that saying no would almost feel rude.
Or socially awkward.
Right. Let's say someone knocks on your door on a Saturday morning.
Okay.
And they ask you to sign a very generic, completely harmless petition about keeping the local neighborhood park clean.
Who wouldn't sign that?
Exactly. It takes 5 seconds. You grab the pen, you sign it, you hand it back. Have a nice day.
Boom. You just laid the first brick.
I made a micro commitment.
You did. And the absolute brilliance of that micro commitment is that it subtly shifts your internal self-image.
Without me even realizing it.
Right. By taking that physical action, by putting your actual signature on a piece of physical paper, you have internalized a tiny new piece of identity.
I've silently declared something to myself.
You've told yourself, I am a good citizen. I am someone who cares about this neighborhood. I am someone who takes action.
Okay, so the wall is starting to take shape.
Yes.
Then, maybe 3 weeks later, that exact same person comes back to your front door.
But this time
they aren't holding a clipboard. They're asking if they can install a massive, ugly, brightly colored billboard on your front lawn advocating for their organization.
a huge escalation.
Massive. Now, if they'd asked for that billboard on day one, you would have slammed the door in their face.
It's an outrageous request for a stranger to make.
Right, but because you already signed the petition.
Because you already established that you are someone who helps this specific cause.
You are now trapped.
You are. You are trapped by the human animal's fundamental need to appear consistent.
Why are we so obsessed with consistency?
Because inconsistency is heavily penalized in human society.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think about it. We view people who change their minds frequently as erratic,
Or untrustworthy.
untrustworthy, hypocritical, flaky. So once we make a choice or take a stand, we face immense personal and internal pressure to behave consistently with that initial commitment.
So I agreed to the ugly billboard on my lawn because Saying no would contradict the identity I just agreed to 3 weeks ago.
We're walled in.
I walled myself in.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychological engine driving this entire process, the mortar holding all those bricks together, is cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. We hear that term a lot, but what does it actually feel like?
It isn't just a fleeting thought of regret. It is the sheer visceral discomfort we experience when our actions conflict with our beliefs.
Or when a new action contradicts a previous choice.
Yes. It is a deeply unsettling physiological anxiety.
It's that awful sinking pit in your stomach. Like when you realize you might have made a terrible mistake, but your pride is desperately scrambling to convince you otherwise.
Your brain's anterior cingulate cortex literally detects a contradiction.
Like an error in the code.
Exactly, an error in your behavioral matrix. And it sounds an alarm bell that manifests as actual physical pain.
Physical pain.
Yes, and the consequence of this discomfort is profound. Because to avoid the pain of cognitive dissonance, to avoid looking in the mirror and admitting we were wrong.
Or admitting that we've been duped by some clever petitioner.
Right. To avoid that pain, we choose to escalate our commitment instead.
We double down.
We double down. And this links directly to the sunk cost fallacy mentioned in the source material.
Right, the idea that if you've already invested your time or your money or your personal reputation into a decision,
walking away means accepting that the investment was wasted.
It means admitting you were foolish.
Exactly.
Which is why people will literally stay in terrible toxic relationships for years.
Or continue pouring thousands of dollars into a failing business venture.
Yes. Rather than face the agonizing dissonance of changing course and admitting they made a mistake on step one,
we trap ourselves to protect our own egos. We will contort our logic into unbelievable labyrinthine shapes just to protect the narrative that we are consistent, rational actors who make good choices.
Man. Which brings up a massive contradiction, if you think about it.
What's that?
Well, if we are walled in by our own micro-commitments, and if we are paralyzed by cognitive dissonance,
yeah,
why doesn't logical evidence just snap us out of it?
Yeah.
Right? Like if someone shows you cold, hard, mathematically proven data showing that the business venture is bankrupt.
Or that the organization putting the billboard on your lawn is actually totally corrupt.
Exactly. Why doesn't your brain just look at that and say, oh, thank you for the new data. I will now alter my worldview accordingly.
That is the great hope of the rationalist, isn't it?
It is.
That better data automatically leads to better decisions.
But it doesn't.
It doesn't. And this is where we have to look at the biological shortcuts that actively, aggressively fight against logic.
The biases.
Right. Our brains are not passive receivers of information.
Right.
No, they are highly active, deeply flawed filtering systems.
And the ultimate barrier to persuasion, the most impenetrable firewall our brain possesses, is confirmation bias.
Without a doubt. To understand confirmation bias, you have to realize that the brain acts less like an objective scientist seeking truth.
And more like a high-priced defense attorney.
Fiercely protecting its client.
And the client, in this case, is your existing worldview.
Exactly.
Think about the phenomenon of the hostile media effect.
Oh, a perfect example.
You have two people, right? They have completely opposite political backgrounds. They sit down on the exact same couch, they look at the exact same television screen, and they watch the exact same unedited footage of a controversial political event.
Same raw data.
Exactly. The broadcast ends. The first person points at the TV and says, see, that footage completely proves my point.
And the second person points at the exact same TV and says, are you blind? That just proved my point.
It's crazy. They consumed the exact same reality, the exact same pixels, and walked away with completely opposite, utterly entrenched conclusions.
It's a stunning illustration of the partisan editor that lives inside our heads.
How does that editor work?
Well, when we encounter new information, our brain immediately scans it.
Hey.
If the information confirms what we already believe, the brain welcomes it, it highlights it, and it commits it to deep memory.
It likes being right.
It loves being right. It literally releases dopamine. Validating our worldview feels chemically good.
But what happens when the information directly contradicts our beliefs?
The brain treats it like a foreign pathogen.
A virus.
Yes. It actively seeks to discredit the source, or it desperately searches for microscopic flaws in the data.
Or just ignores it entirely.
Exactly. We develop a cognitive blind spot. We literally cannot perceive the facts that threaten our established identity.
The filter just catches them and neutralizes them before they ever reach our conscious reasoning.
Yes.
Which leads to a really terrifying strategic reality if you're trying to persuade someone.
Which is?
You cannot bomb a deeply entrenched belief with facts.
You cannot.
You cannot use logos pure logic to destroy confirmation bias. The brain's firewall is simply too thick.
If someone genuinely believes the Earth is flat, showing them high-resolution satellite imagery is not going to change their mind.
No. Their confirmation bias will just invent a complex conspiracy theory about why the imagery was faked by a shadow government.
Which, ironically, only entrenches their belief further.
Exactly. This is the tragic flaw in so many of our arguments, isn't it? Both in our living rooms and in public discourse.
We fundamentally believe that if we just find the right statistic,
Or the perfect pie chart.
or the most undeniable historical fact, the other person will finally just concede.
You got me with the pie chart.
Right. But to get through a deeply entrenched belief, you have to bypass logic entirely.
You have to go around it.
You have to appeal to their identity, their ethos, or their emotions, their pathos first.
It's kind of like trying to break into a heavily fortified medieval castle.
Okay, I like this.
Logos, the raw facts, that's like a battering ram repeatedly hitting the thickest, strongest part of the stone wall.
It's exhausting, it's loud, and it almost always fails.
Right. But appealing to ethos or pathos, that is like finding a hidden tunnel beneath the moat that leads straight into the courtyard.
You have to make the person feel safe enough to lower the drawbridge before any raw data can be processed.
I love that. Make them lower the drawbridge.
And speaking of hidden tunnels, there is another cognitive flaw that operates entirely under the radar. It heavily distorts how we process information about the people delivering these messages.
What is it?
It's known as the halo effect.
The halo effect. Okay, wait. Is this what you mentioned earlier about attractiveness? Like, if someone is just articulate or physically attractive, my brain automatically assumes they are morally trustworthy.
Just based on one single aesthetic trait,
Yeah.
I am confirming exactly that.
That is wild.
The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person completely influences how we feel and think about their entire character.
So it bleeds over.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If we perceive one outstanding positive trait, perhaps they are incredibly charming, or they dress impeccably, or they have this deep, resonant speaking voice.
That single trait casts a glowing, infallible halo over our entire perception of them.
Exactly.
So going back to our earlier analogy, the bouncer at the brain's door sees the $1,000 tailored suit and just automatically assumes the person wearing it is also honest, hardworking, highly intelligent, and kind.
Even though a nice suit has literally nothing to do with a person's moral compass.
Nothing at all.
We constantly conflate aesthetic or superficial excellence with moral or intellectual excellence.
It's a massive cognitive failing.
It is. Think about the resources poured into political campaigns or corporate public relations.
Oh, millions and millions of dollars.
An enormous amount of money is spent just to make a candidate look energetic, sound resolute, and appear visually flawless on high-definition cameras.
Because the political strategists know that if the candidate looks strong and sounds confident at a podium, the voters' halo effect will automatically fill in the blanks.
The voters will just assume the candidate's foreign policy must also be brilliant.
And their ethics must be beyond reproach.
It's an incredibly effective shortcut that bypasses actual policy debate entirely.
Wow. Okay, but this raises
an important question.
Yes, exactly.
We've established that these vulnerabilities, deferring to authority, falling for the liking cocktail, getting trapped by our own consistency, and being blinded by confirmation bias and the halo effect.
Yeah, these are all ancient biological quirks.
They're evolutionary baggage left over from when we lived in small tribes.
Right.
But what happens when you take these ancient, completely predictable vulnerabilities and you feed them into the machinery of modern, hyper-fast technology?
Here's where it gets really interesting. And borderline dystopian.
Very dystopia.
Because these ancient quirks, they are no longer just being used by an individual car salesman trying to move a sedan off the lot or a single politician on a debate stage.
No, the scale has changed.
They are being weaponized on a massive industrial scale in the digital age. We are talking about the algorithms that dictate our daily reality.
When you combine the flaws of human psychology with the processing power of machine learning and big data, the scale of persuasion shifts fundamentally.
It's no longer one-on-one.
The algorithms running social media platforms, search engines, and news aggregators. They are essentially the most efficient, tireless, and personalized persuaders in human history.
And their primary mechanisms of control, as outlined in our sources, are the creation of filter bubbles and echo chambers.
Let's actually walk through how that works, connecting it back to the psychological traps we just mapped out.
Let's do it.
When you log on to a platform, the algorithm is watching every single micro-interaction.
Every click.
You linger on a controversial video for 3 seconds longer than usual.
It notes it.
You click a like button on a political meme. You share an article with an inflammatory headline.
You are basically providing constant granular data about your own biases.
You're handing them the blueprint to your brain.
Wow.
The algorithm takes that data and uses it to construct a custom-built, hermetically sealed reality just for you.
Your own personal Truman Show.
Exactly. It begins feeding you a relentless, endless diet of content that perfectly aligns with your existing views.
So it is artificially triggering your confirmation bias thousands of times a day.
It creates a perfectly insulated environment where you are never challenged, only validated.
Which feels great, chemically speaking.
It feels amazing. But the algorithm's brilliance is that it doesn't stop with confirmation bias.
Oh, of course not.
What else does it use?
It simultaneously leverages the other principles we discussed. It uses social proof.
How so?
By showing you how many hundreds of thousands of other people liked the exact same post.
So it tricks your brain into thinking, if this many people believe this, it must be the absolute truth.
I am in the majority.
Right. And it leverages the liking principle too, doesn't it?
It does, because it delivers this tailored content through the proxy of your online friends, your family members, or the influencers you already admire.
Oh, that's insidious. So the hyperpartisan information is coming from a source your brain has already labeled as safe, familiar, and cooperative.
The result is a state of hyper-persuasion.
Hyper-persuasion. In the physical world, you can walk off the car lot.
You can drive away.
You can change the channel on the TV commercial. You can just close the front door on the petitioner.
But a filter bubble.
The filter bubble is an inescapable, invisible feedback loop.
It follows you everywhere.
It is actively designed to reinforce your existing worldview, keep you perpetually outraged or perpetually validated.
And ultimately, keep you endlessly scrolling.
Your biases aren't just being triggered occasionally, they are being systematically farmed for attention and profit.
Man, that paints a genuinely bleak picture of our own free will.
It is sobering.
We've spent all this time mapping the defense. We know the traps now.
We do.
We know how to recognize the trappings of authority, the manufactured rapport, the liking cocktail, the walls of consistency, and the industrial scale manipulation of our confirmation bias.
So how do we pivot?
Exactly. If we know all the ways people and machines manipulate us, what does the offense look like?
How do you use this ethically?
Right. What if you are a manager and you're just trying to implement a necessary new software system at work?
Or what if you're a parent trying to convince a teenager to make safer choices?
Yes. How do you ethically persuade someone to change their mind without using these dark pattern traps?
This is the crucial pivot from manipulation to true influence.
Okay. Lay it on me.
Ethical persuasion is not about outsmarting the other person.
It's not a chess match.
It is not about tricking their cognitive bouncer with a fake VIP pass.
So what is it?
True influence relies on what I consider to be the ultimate paradox of human communication.
The ultimate paradox. Yeah.
Okay, to become more persuasive, you actually have to talk significantly less and listen significantly more.
Which is completely counterintuitive.
Totally.
When we think of a highly persuasive person, we picture this charismatic orator, right?
Someone commanding the room.
Yeah, we picture the Hollywood version of a lawyer, pacing back and forth, delivering this brilliant, soaring monologue that leaves the jury speechless and weeping.
We revere the monologue.
We really do.
But true, durable influence in the real world almost never comes from a speech.
Where does it come from?
It comes from deep, empathetic investigation.
Investigation.
It comes from understanding the other person's perspective, uncovering their underlying motivations, and most importantly, identifying their genuine, unspoken objections.
Unspoken objections. I always think of stated objections like the check engine light on a car's dashboard.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. Let's say you are pitching a new product or you're proposing a new departmental budget to your boss.
Okay.
And they look at your proposal, they shake their head, and they say, it's too expensive.
A classic objection.
Now, the amateur persuader, the one who is relying entirely on logos, they will immediately start arguing with a check engine light.
They'll pull out the spreadsheets.
Massive spreadsheets. They'll calculate the return on investment over a 5-year period. They'll argue about cost-benefit ratios and quarterly projections.
But It's too expensive is almost never the actual problem.
Never. The stated objection is almost always a smokescreen.
It is a socially acceptable way to say no without revealing vulnerability.
Exactly. Arguing with the "it's too expensive" line is literally like tapping on the dashboard glass trying to make the check engine light turn off.
You aren't fixing the transmission failure beneath the hood.
The real objection, the broken transmission, is hidden.
And what might that real objection be?
It could be anything.
Yeah.
The real objection might be a deep-seated fear of change.
Or a lack of trust in you or your company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe the manager is just feeling incredibly overwhelmed by their current workload, and the thought of training their team on a new system is genuinely terrifying to them.
So they just look at the price tag and say, it's too expensive to make you go away safely.
Because it's easier than saying, "I'm overwhelmed."
And if you spend all your time throwing spreadsheets at the check engine light, you will never fix the engine.
Never.
This is where the profound power of active listening becomes your greatest, most ethical tool.
Active listening.
Active listening isn't just remaining quiet while you wait for your turn to speak.
Which is what most of us do, let's be honest.
Right. But real active listening is an intense, empathetic investigation. It requires you to hear what is not being said.
So how do you do that practically?
You have to ask open-ended questions that bypass the smokescreen.
For example?
I completely understand the budget is a concern, but putting the numbers aside just for a moment, how do you feel about the implementation timeline? How would this impact your team's day-to-day?
And then you just watch?
You watch their body language, you listen for the hesitation in their voice, you are searching under the hood for the real problem.
Because once you locate that genuine barrier underneath the surface,
Once you realize that the manager isn't cheap, they are just terrified that the new software will crash during their busiest quarter and get them fired.
the entire dynamic shifts.
Completely, you are no longer fighting their logic.
You are solving their problem.
Exactly. You can address the fear of the crash directly, perhaps by offering a phased rollout or guaranteeing a dedicated IT support team during that specific quarter.
So what does this all mean? It means you completely shift the interaction from an adversarial argument to a collaborative effort.
That's the ethical offense.
When you are manipulating someone or just throwing raw facts at them, it's a tug of war.
You are pulling on one end of the rope, trying to drag them across a line to your side.
It causes friction, it causes resentment, and they dig their heels in.
But when you uncover their real objection and work to solve it, you drop the rope.
You drop the rope, you walk over to their side of the table, you look at the problem together, and you figure out a win-win outcome.
It is the fundamental difference between forcing someone's compliance and actually earning their commitment.
Which is a huge distinction.
Massive. Compliance is fragile. The moment you stop applying pressure, they revert to their old behavior.
But commitment,
Commitment is durable because it is built on mutual understanding and genuinely solved problems.
oh, let's pull all this together.
Just do it.
We've discovered today that influence truly is a dual-sided coin.
Defense and offense.
On one side, the defense. We have to cultivate an intense, almost paranoid, critical awareness.
We have to recognize our own biological vulnerabilities.
The way our brains lazily defer to authority figures in costumes.
How we fall for the manufactured rapport of the liking cocktail.
How we trap ourselves behind walls of consistency to avoid cognitive dissonance.
And how our confirmation bias furiously protects our worldview from contradictory facts.
We have to understand how these ancient vulnerabilities are farmed and weaponized against us by the digital algorithms that shape our modern reality. That is our defense system.
And on the other side of the coin, we must cultivate genuine empathy.
The offense.
To be a true ethical influence in your workplace, your community, or your home, you have to abandon the desire to win via adversarial monologue.
You must embrace active, investigative listening.
You must seek out the hidden objections beneath the hood and focus entirely on collaborative problem solving.
The ultimate takeaway from mapping this invisible architecture is this. The most powerful persuasion isn't about having the slickest sales pitch.
It isn't about having the most irrefutable data set or the cleverest psychological trap.
It is simply about being the person who listened long enough and deeply enough to truly understand.
Absolutely.
It's a massive paradigm shift in how we interact with each other.
It really is.
And before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own.
Okay.
We open this deep dive by asking you to remember a time you agreed to something you didn't want, and you wondered, why did I say yes to that?
Right.
We've explored the invisible traps that caused it, But think about the ethical offense we just discussed.
The empathetic investigation.
Yes. If true influence, true progress, comes from listening and understanding the real unspoken objections, like a hidden fear of change or a deep-seated lack of trust or feeling of being overwhelmed,
Yeah.
I want you to consider the broader world. Look at the gridlock we face everywhere.
It's everywhere.
How much of our daily conflict, from the tense personal arguments in our living rooms, all the way up to the massive, paralyzing debates on the global stage?
How much of it is just an illusion?
Exactly. How much of it is simply a catastrophic failure to hear the unsaid fears of the other side?
It is the most urgent question we can ask.
Right.
Because if we spend all our time arguing with the check engine light...
The engine will eventually tear itself apart.
Exactly.
It's something to seriously think about the next time you find yourself trying to win an argument. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.